Welcome back. All right, so 3 games in the National Hockey League this afternoon. I'm going to review these now. That way it's a 9-game review tonight. Shouldn't end up processing for as long, and it should mean that it's a little bit easier for me to get everything done before about 2 in the morning, my time. So we had 3 games going on, and some interesting results here. We're going to start off with the Boston Bruins at home against the New York Islanders. Boston avoids the sweep against the New York Islanders with this result today. It's Varlamov versus Ullmark, early press by the Bruins, and eventually, with a good shift, Craig Smith gets another one. Now, Carlo misses the net on his shot. I'm going to go ahead and say that's intentional. They're at home. You know the boards. I'm going to say it's an intentional miss of the net to get the goalie out of position, and then Smith puts the puck in. Coyle with the secondary assist at 4:03, and then the Bruins are going for another. Barzal has a net drive that's saved. Beauvillier's denied. Ullmark holds. Bailey has a rush that's saved as the Islanders have some momentum at this stage of the game. Palmieri scores, but it was ruled to be a high stick. Now, initially, I thought they were going to let it stand. Initially, I was like, that's probably good. But yes, they reviewed it, and they decided it was a high stick. Hall has a chance in the slot. That was saved. Pastrnak with a rush chance. That was saved as well. The Bruins get a power play. That's killed off. Foligno with the net drive. That draws a power play for Boston with 40.3 seconds left. And they score immediately, basically right off the faceoff. It's Hall on the power play from McAvoy and Marchand at 19:26. So it's 2-0. Things are good. And whoops. Nelson scores from Chara and Lee at 19:48. You have to play the full 20 minutes of the period. Chara with the blast. Nelson puts in his 30th. And the 11th goal he's had in his last 13 games. Brock Nelson's playing very well right now. So instead of being 2-0, it's 2-1. You always have to be concerned about the New York Islanders and their ability to come back and fight their way back into games. Second period, the Islanders turn a puck over, and that's the wrong idea. Pastrnak scores from Haula and Hall at 2 minutes and 13 seconds. So what's interesting with Boston is they're known as a one-line team. Pastrnak, he's not playing on the same line as Bergeron and Marchand. So what has happened here is by splitting them up, you've created 2 scoring lines. And then with the Smith, Coyle, Frederick line, they've got three lines that are putting the puck in the net. I realized that today when I was watching this. I was like, this seems different. There's 3 scoring lines right now for Boston, and adding Lindholm on the blue line, you never know. So Smith then has a rush chance that's saved. The Bruins had momentum after that, and eventually they score again. It's Marchand from Bergeron at 3:56. That makes it 4-1. The Islanders start looking a little bit ornery out there. You end up with some brawliness going on a play where the Islanders would come out of it with a power play. During that power play, the Islanders score. It's Lee from Pajot and Dobson at 5:12. So, yeah, the Islanders look for another after that, and they have the momentum back. Bergeron has a near miss then on a tip. The Islanders get another power play. It is unsuccessful. The Bruins press with 8 minutes left, and eventually they get another goal. It's Haula from Pastrnak and Hall at 14:33. Frederick then had a net drive. That was saved by Varlamov, who was under siege at points in the first 2 periods. DeBrusk would score another from Marchand and McAvoy at 18:18. And then McAvoy, before the period's out, he almost adds a 7th goal for Boston. So this was just all Boston. They had 36 shots in the first 2 periods. Third period, early chances for the Bruins, but the Islanders press at 4 minutes. There's a net feed to Palmieri. That won't go. The shots are 3-1 for the Bruins at 6.5 minutes. Frederick has a tip that goes wide. The Bruins get a power play. We end up with a post for Pastrnak. It's killed off. The Bruins do press after it's done. Martin had a fight with Foligno. Foligno gets the extra 2. So the Islanders get the power play, and they score on it. It's Parise with a nice tip. No chance for Ullmark. Beauvillier puts it where he isn't, and Parise tips it in. One of the easier goals you're going to see for Parise. Palmieri with the secondary assist at 14:43. So that makes it 6-3. And with 1:25 left, the Islanders get a power play. They don't score on that, and so your final score in this one is 6-3 for Boston. It's a little sloppier than I'd like to see in a victory for the Bruins, but they get the win. They go to 41-19-5. They move 2 points ahead of Toronto. The New York Islanders 28-26-9 with the overtime loss, or with the regulation loss. I'm thinking over here. These games went to extra time. This one did not. This is the only one that was solved in regulation. So your shots are 19-13 Boston in the first, 17-9 Boston in the second, and 8-5 Boston in the third. Final shots 44-27 for Boston. This is the best I've seen Boston playing in, I'm going to say, 2 years. Power plays, the Islanders 2 for 4, Boston 1 for 3. The hits 26-22 for the Islanders. Varlamov saves 38 out of 44. Ullmark saves 24 out of 27. So pretty darn good game. As a Bruins fan, of course, I enjoyed seeing them win 6-3. But what impressed me was that at points in this game where I've seen Boston give up these goals, pretty quick after 18 seconds here, a minute and a bit here, it doesn't keep swinging the other way. Boston gets that momentum back. So that's key as we get closer to the playoffs. And right now, Boston owns second spot in the division. And third spot in the division, right now, before tonight's games get started, belongs to the Tampa Bay Lightning. How did they get there? Well, Elliott's against Nedeljkovic in this one. Elliott's had a very good run of late. He's been playing well. Nedeljkovic has definitely recovered from what was a disastrous run he was having as well. So Point has a fast break that's saved. The shots are only 2-1 for Tampa at 5.5 minutes. There's a near miss for Maroon. Good back and forth at the 8-minute mark. The Wings get a power play. That's killed off. There's 2 shots on goal during that. Wings get another power play. Raymond was denied during that. That power play is killed off too. Tampa Bay's being outplayed and outshot at this point in the game, although this is the game where nothing was happening, and that's the game where everything was happening, at least until late in that game. Bogosian has a shot saved as the Bolts press. About 2 minutes left in the period, but we're scoreless after one. Second period, early jump for Tampa. There's a near miss for Braden Point. Bogosian has a shot that deflects wide. The Wings press at 4 minutes. The shots are 5-1 for Tampa at 4.5. The Wings get their third power play. Tampa Bay hadn't had any power plays yet. That's killed off. Seider ends up being stuck on the ice for a little bit over 4 minutes. For a guy who had a 4-minute shift, he did play quite well. Ernie has a chance that won't go. The Bolts press. They draw themselves their first power play. Levy fires wide. Oh, that power play ends up being unsuccessful, which is the only time that happens today. Levy fires wide on a rush, and I'm going to say this. Ole Levy is fitting in better in Detroit than he did in Florida. So I really think, this could be a good pickup for them. There's ice issues, and there was ice issues in this game, and all I could think was, did the Pistons just play on this ice? Like, you could see the concrete. And they showed before the third period, you could still see the concrete. This is one of those times where you realize, right, the ice is painted white. And the funny thing was, they tried to clean up the ice using a bottle from the bench, which turned out to be blue Gatorade. So that patch of ice had kind of a blue tint to it for a bit there. And then they got water and they started patting it down, but it was kind of a mess. So I'm just glad that if the concrete was exposed, that nobody ends up getting hurt. That's your key thing, right? Thinking back to the Lake Tahoe game, I'm pretty sure this wasn't at Lake Tahoe. I'm pretty sure this was at Little Caesars. But after 2, despite the ice issues, it's still scoreless. So we didn't end up with some weird fluky thing going on with the ice like that. Third period, early high stick gives the Wings a power play. They can't set it up. Hirose has a tip that's saved. And then we get 3 seconds of 5-on-3. Now here's the amazing thing. The penalty that made it 5-on-3. If you're a Bolts fan and you were mad about that and you didn't think that was a penalty, neither did Mickey Redmond. He did not think that should have been a penalty. It was one of those, kind of moments that he has. So, yeah, Bertuzzi has a near miss. Everything gets killed off in that. So, it ends up not hurting Tampa Bay. Larkin can't bury one then as the Wings press. Elliott, another good start for him. The shots are 5-2 for the Wings at 7 minutes, in part because they had so much time on the power play. The fans call a penalty. The ref doesn't, because at this point, Detroit had enough power plays. Sundqvist would end up opening the scoring, though, from Suter and Ernie at 8:41, and it just squeaks through Elliott. It's one of those ones that just barely gets in there. Didn't even reach the very back of the net. It just crosses the line. Bolts try to answer. Nedeljkovic holding on. There's more ice issues. Bolts end up getting the power play. Points denied, but Stamkos was not. He scores the power play goal from Point and Cirelli at 15:22. The Bolts then look for the lead. Stamkos and Point are denied as the Bolts press. Bertuzzi was then denied in the final minute. It was a wide open, crazy third period, probably to make up for what was kind of a slow first and second. But again, if there's ice issues all over, you can understand it being a little bit slow. In the overtime, Tampa Bay 7-2 in overtime, Detroit 8-5. Bolts win the faceoff. Larkin has a chance, but Bertuzzi ends up taking a penalty on that play. Bolts with a timeout before that starts. Stamkos has a chance to deflect out. Braden Point ends it. The 4-on-3 power play is the key. He scores from Stamkos and Cirelli at 2:32. Your final score is 2-1 for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They go to 40, 18, and 6. So 1 point behind Boston, and they leapfrog Toronto, who are playing tonight against Montreal. For Detroit, they're 26, 31, and 8 with the overtime loss. Your shots, 7-5 Detroit in the first, 11-6 Tampa Bay in the second, 16-14 Tampa Bay in the third. Tampa Bay had 4 shots in the overtime. Detroit had none. Final shots, 36-27 for Tampa. Power plays, Tampa 2 for 3. That was the key. Detroit 0 for 5. Special teams making a big difference. The hits were 20-17 for Tampa. Elliott saves 26 out of 27. Nedeljkovic saves 34 out of 36. So again, Elliott's numbers have been coming up. Nedeljkovic is salvaging the rest of his season as well. But Tampa Bay gets the win they needed. Speaking of which, the Vegas Golden Knights coming into today had never won a game when they were trailing by 3 goals heading into the third period. Chicago decided to help them change that. It's the only way I can put it. So it's Lankinen versus Thompson in this game between Chicago and Vegas. Early jump for Vegas. Seth Jones has a shot that's blocked. Some good back and forth action. Vegas presses. Lankinen making saves early. The stats at the end of the night don't end up being flattering to him, but I think it was a lot about the defense in front of him. The shots are 6-1 Vegas at 8 minutes, but Kubalik ends up opening the scoring from McCabe and Taves at 10:02, and that went in off Shea Theodore's stick. Kane misses high as the Hawks then press. There's a near miss for Kubalik from the slot, and the shots are evening up. The Hawks with some momentum in the second half, especially with that goal at the half. The Hawks press with 2.5 minutes left, and they're up 1-0 after 1. Second period, Radish has a rush chance that's saved early on. We get a power play for Vegas. Pietrangelo has a chance that deflects wide. The Hawks survive. They kill that off. The Hawks get a power play of their own. We end up with 1:18 of 4-on-4. Vegas has the power play. After that, Stevenson with a near miss. That's all killed off. And that was the end of the special teams in this game. Janmark's denied. Saves on Marsh. There's a save on Marchessault as well. Vegas presses with 8.5 minutes left. Carlson fires one high on a net drive. And then, on a good shift that Chicago has at the other end, Taves scores from DeBrincat at 14:52. Nicely tipped by Taves. Not much chance for Thompson there. Hawks press next shift. There's some momentum, and before the period's out, Dylan Strome adds one from Caleb Jones and Kane at 18:16. Strome just buries the rebound. Hawks nearly added another in the closing seconds. So it's 3-0 after 2, and it looked like Chicago was going to succeed. But the third period, Vegas is very good, and Chicago's record is not good, so nothing's done yet. Stevenson scores from Dodonov at 1:24. You know, they mentioned when they were talking about the Dodonov debacle and all that, he could still be traded before the end of the year. And if he gets traded, he won't be allowed to play any regular season or playoff games for whichever team he goes to. That they may actually trade him because of their salary cap issues, which would be a shame because Dodonov is the reason they've started scoring goals again. I think it makes a huge difference having him in the lineup. Look at the difference it makes. And they're still thinking about getting rid of him to make cap space. I am at a loss. So that was on a rush. That was under the arm. That's one of those ones that Lankinen probably could have and should have saved. Vegas then pushes for another, and they get it. It's Carlson from Coughlin and Marchessault at 2:23. It's a tipped shot. The Hawks call a timeout. Doesn't matter. At 3:16, Eichel ties the game from Stevenson and Theodore, so Derek King wasted a timeout. But really nice hat today for Derek King. And if you saw it, you know what I'm talking about. Made you feel like maybe this was an outdoor game he thought or something. Like he looked really sharp today. So yeah, the collapse is complete. This is a Vegas steamroll. There's more pressing by Vegas. But then DeBrincat's denied from close. He also had a post in the first 2 periods. And eventually he gets a goal from Kane and Seth Jones at 8:43. He wired it. That's a good result from plenty of chances. And they have the lead back for less than a minute. Pietrangelo scores from Roy and Janmark at 9:40. That one went in off Kirby Dach. So defense, not great. Strome has a rush chance that saved. Just the defensive side of this game was terrible. Both teams defensively giving up way too many rush chances, way too much room. Like when you're backing off from guys who have the puck in your zone, I don't know that I understand the strategy behind that. But yeah, so we end up going to overtime. Chicago 9-9 in overtime. Vegas 6-4. Or at least this is an extra time, I think. I don't think this is just overtime. Stevenson's denied early. Hawks had a 2-on-1 that misfires. Marchessault has a rush chance, deflects wide. Kubalik misses one wide, and that's your difference maker right there. Because Dodonov ends up getting a goal from Roy and Marchessault at 2:05. Vegas wins 5-4 with a goal and an assist from Evgeny Dodonov. They go to 36-28-4. They jump 1 point ahead of Dallas, who are playing tonight against Vancouver. Now I'm torn on who I'm cheering for between Vancouver and Dallas. Thank you, Vegas. On the Chicago front, they're 24, 32, and 10 on the season with that overtime loss. Your shots in this one, 9 apiece in the first, 14-8 Chicago in the second, 14-9 Vegas in the third, 3-2 Vegas in the overtime. Final shots, both teams had 34. Power plays, Chicago 0 for 1, Vegas 0 for 2. A lot of hitting in this. 46-40 for Chicago, which might be a reflection of the defensive miscues both teams were having. Lankinen saves 29 out of 34. Thompson saves 30 out of 34. But again, I thought it spoke more to some sloppy defense than it spoke to goaltending being an issue for either team tonight. But let me know your thoughts regarding any of these games in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.